Imagine selling an entire territory, 1.5 million square kilometers of raw, frozen wilderness, for less than 2 cents per acre. Now imagine the people who sold it deeply regretted it for the next 150 years. This is the story of the Alaska Purchase, and it's far darker, far more political, and far more desperate than your history teacher ever told you. To understand why Russia sold Alaska, you need to understand how badly Russia was bleeding out by the 1860s. It's 1856. The Crimean War has just ended, and Russia lost, badly. The war against Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire drained the treasury, humiliated the military, and exposed just how fragile the Russian Empire truly was. Tsar Alexander II inherited a broken empire, massive debts, a restless population on the edge of revolt, and a growing anxiety about one specific problem: British expansion in North America. At the time, Britain controlled Canada, and Canada shared a border with Russian Alaska. If Britain ever decided to take Alaska by force, which, after the Crimean War, didn't seem so far-fetched, Russia had almost no way to defend it. The territory was too remote, too cold, too expensive to maintain. So Alexander II made a cold, calculated decision: sell Alaska before someone takes it. It's March 1867, Washington, D.C. The world has no idea what's about to happen. Russia's ambassador, Baron Edward de Stuckel, quietly approaches Secretary of State William H. Seward with an offer. Russia wants to sell Alaska. Seward, a man so obsessed with American expansion that his colleagues called him dangerously ambitious, didn't hesitate for a single second. The two men negotiated through the night on March 29, 1867. By 4 o'clock in the morning on March 30th, the deal was done. The price? $7.2 million. That's roughly $150 million in today's money, which sounds like a lot, until you realize they just bought a territory larger than Texas, California, and Montana combined. That works out to approximately 2 cents per acre. Now here's where the story gets dark. The American public absolutely hated this deal. Newspapers went savage. The New York Tribune called Alaska a sucked orange. The New York World called it Wall Russia. Critics mocked Seward relentlessly, calling the purchase Seward's Folly and Seward's Icebox. Congressmen were furious. Why were they spending $7.2 million on a frozen wasteland full of ice and bears? What was the strategic value? What would America even do with it? The Senate debates were brutal, but on April 9, 1867, the Senate voted 37-2 to ratify the treaty. The House, however, still had to approve the funds, and they stalled for over a year, refusing to release the money. Then came the whispers of something darker. Historians have long suspected, and some documents have confirmed, that Baron de Stuckel didn't just negotiate the deal, he paid for it. In 1868, investigative reports suggested that Stuckel used a portion of the $7.2 million to bribe American congressmen and journalists to support the Alaska Purchase. Estimates suggest $100,000 to $200,000 quietly changed hands, a significant sum in 1868. Whether through bribery, political pressure, or genuine patriotism, the House eventually approved the funds on July 27, 1868. Alaska officially became American territory on October 18, 1867, a date still celebrated in Alaska as Alaska Day. Here's the part that should haunt you. In 1896, just 29 years after the sale, gold was discovered in the Yukon. Within 2 years, the Klondike gold rush had begun, and prospectors were flooding into the region. Billions in gold would eventually be extracted. Then, in 1968, oil was discovered at Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. the largest oil field ever found in North America. To date, Alaska has produced over 17 billion barrels of oil, generating hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue. Russia sold Alaska for $7.2 million. Alaska has since generated an estimated $500 billion or more in natural resources. Russia didn't just sell land, they sold the future. And now for the part both Russia and America preferred to ignore entirely. When Russia sold Alaska to the United States, there were approximately 30,000 to 40,000 indigenous people living there: Aleuts, Tlingit, Yupik, Inupiaq, and dozens of other nations who had called this land home for thousands of years. No one asked them. No one told them. Two empires drew up a contract, exchanged money, and declared that human beings and their ancestral lands had changed ownership, like furniture being sold with a house. Under the Treaty of Cession, indigenous Alaskans were given a complicated status, neither full citizens nor clearly protected. Their land rights would be disputed, ignored, and fought over for the next century. It wasn't until 1971, over 100 years later, that the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act was passed, settling land disputes and granting indigenous groups 44 million acres and nearly $1 billion in compensation. A century of waiting for land that was theirs to begin with. So what do we make of the Alaska Purchase? Was it Seward's genius, Russia's desperation, American luck, or something more complicated? A deal built on bribery, imperial arrogance, and the erasure of the people who mattered most. What we know is this: Russia sold something they didn't fully understand. America bought something they didn't fully appreciate. And the people who actually lived there weren't part of the conversation at all. For 2 cents an acre, America got one of the greatest bargains in history. The question is, who really paid the price?